this question says, explain one benefit to Alyssa of storing her music files in the cloud. Has 2 marks. Pause the video and come back for the answer. All right, so what we need to say here is basically what is one benefit to Alyssa of storing anything into the cloud, her music files into the cloud. You have to say that firstly, it is, there are many benefits that she has. Um, what you can say here, for example, let me list some of the benefits that she has. Um, she doesn't have to worry about like arranging the hardware, the secondary storage devices for storing these music files. She doesn't have to worry about all that physical administrative work for installing the hardware all the time and maintaining them, making sure. And whenever any hard drive goes bad, she doesn't have to worry about like fixing it, upgrading it. So that's one of the major benefits that you have with the cloud. Um, Another benefit is that you can increase your storage, like expand your storage, just by paying some extra money, and they will increase the storage for you. The cloud storage service provider will increase the storage for you. Whereas if you had to do this on your own, you'd have to buy more hardware, you'd have to install it, all of that stuff that goes with that. Okay, so um, not to mention, it'll be less expensive for Alyssa to do this because it costs more to set up your own infrastructure, your own hardware, your own servers, your own hard drives. So it's much more economic, cheaper to install to upload to the drive. So what we can say here is she can one benefit that she can have, and notice that it has 2 marks, so we're gonna have to give like one benefit and plus something extra added to that definition or explanation. So, and it says explain one benefit, right? So you need to be a little more descriptive with this answer. You can see from the marks as well that that's hinting to you that this is going to require a more explanatory kind of answer. Okay, so she doesn't have to. She doesn't have to worry about installing and maintaining. Now, this is again my version of the answer. You just got to make sure you've mentioned the important points here. She doesn't have to worry about installing and maintaining the secondary. Should have just said hardware, but I want to be a little more specific. Secondary storage devices. She doesn't have to worry about installing and maintaining secondary storage devices. Um, and she can easily upgrade, upgrade, or downgrade her storage requirements, her storage space, based on a need basis or based on her needs. Based on her needs. Okay, so this is the answer I'm going with. This should be enough to give me the full marks, inshallah, for the question. So, let me just fix the line break here. So this should be enough for giving us full marks here, but I'll show you the answer key for this too. You can see how to answer this really quickly. It always comes in pretty big. Gotta scale it down every time. Yeah, so you can see here, award up to 2 marks for a linked explanation. So, like I said, there are 2 points. and they're saying explain. So you have to give like sort of a linked explanation. Like I give two things. I said she doesn't have to worry about installing and maintaining secondary storage devices, so she doesn't have to worry about like maintaining the hardware herself, and she can also easily upgrade or downgrade her storage space based on her needs. Okay, so I gave two linked kind of explanations. Okay, so I could say storage capacity can be scaled up and down. Okay, so no need to buy more secondary storage devices. Only pay for what is used or needed, right? So this is very convenient. We'll have all the files in one place. We'll have the files in all in one place. So everything's in one drive, one folder, whatever, one drive, easy to access rather than scattered across many secondary storage devices if she were to manage that on her own. Files can be uploaded, downloaded anytime, anywhere on any device, so long as there is an internet connection. Can be set up to automatically backup. So these are two important points, that it's available on all devices, anywhere, anytime, so long as there is an internet connection. This is an important point to mention. Without internet, cloud storage is useless. Can be set up to automatically backup or synchronize with mobile devices. Therefore, if any files devices are lost, stolen, or files will be available on the server, right? So that's the benefit. It's a client-server relationship. All of her files will be stored on the server. She doesn't have to worry about carrying those around in her like flash drives or expansion hard drives or whatever. She can just put it on the drive, close her computer, be in travel to another country, just have an internet connection. She can access her files again. How convenient is that, right? So yeah, that's that question. So those were all the possible answers you could have given for this question. Now we have give one possible security issue associated with storing music files in the cloud. Okay, pause the video, come back for the answer. Right, so what we can say here simply is what are the possible security issues? Firstly, she has less control. She has less or maybe no control over the files stored on the server. Um, so I could say she has less control to be safe. She has less control on the files over her files. Basically, let's say she has less control over the files. The other issues are that they could her files could be like on the mercy of the cloud storage provider. If it's not a trustworthy provider, what if there is a problem in their network security? They are hacked. Their servers are hacked, so her data has been compromised as well, right? So she doesn't have control over how to secure her files. Not only just controlling her files, she can't like decide what sort of security measures to take. She's only reliant on the storage provider for her security safeguarding. So I'll show you some of the answers here. We'll just bring that in. So what we can say here is storage host could be targeted by hackers, right? Like we said that. Alyssa has less control over her files. An untrustworthy employee of the cloud storage provider could steal her files. Another interesting point you could mention. I think this is something that would come to your minds, of most of your minds, as a first answer. Reliant on the storage provider for security and safekeeping, files can be intercepted, corrupted during upload and download. Interesting, right? So when you're uploading and downloading your files, you can also mention that they could be intercepted or corrupted. All right, let's store that as the answer. Move on. Now this question says one of Alyssa's music files is stored at https:// blah 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 www.cloudisfab.com. This is an entire URL. Complete the table by adding a description of each URL component. So they're basically asking you, do you understand what URLs are made of? What are all these different components called? So you don't have to get too technical about this, but we have learned about these things. in our classes. So let's try and answer this, inshallah. Oh, firstly, pause the video and come back for the answer. Right, so first we have HTTPS. If you remember, HTTPS is basically a protocol. Okay, it's a protocol. Protocols are basically rules or a guidebook or a set of rules that we follow to do something, right? And what HTTPS does is it helps deliver the content from the client to the browser and vice versa, browser to the sorry, client to the server and vice versa, server to the client in a secure way. The other variant to this is HTTP. That's it, right? But because the link is saying HTTPS, so we'll just stick to that. HTTPS. Then it asks us about www.cloudisfab.com. What is this? Well, this is the domain. We can say domain name. We can just say domain. Domain. Let's go with domain name. We could also say that this is the name of the website or the host. You could also say the host. I think host is something that we haven't studied, so we'll just say domain name slash name of website. RE12, what is RE12? This looks like a folder, right? This looks like a folder. What's the other name for folders that we learned while programming? You can also call them directories. So this is a folder, or you can say directory. Then ru2.mp3. This definitely looks like this is a file. This is a resource, this is a file, this is a .mp3 file. Well, we know that Alyssa is storing music files, so that MP3 is going to be a music file, right? So that's the file. So this is a file. Okay, we can say file, this is some media. We can also say this is a, this is a resource. Okay. Um, yeah. So we could also say other things like it's part of the path. So again, this is basically the path to a directory of a file, like a path to a file, basically. This is the entire path that you need to take to get to the file. So that should give you full marks for this question, inshallah. Right, so next question says, Riba likes writing programs. She is writing a guessing game. She needs a flow chart to show the logic of the game. These are the components needed to draw the flowchart. So they've given us some components. They've put in the words for us and the shapes. We just need to draw the flowchart in the correct order and connect things properly, wire them up correctly. So draw the flowchart for the algorithm in the box on the next page. Use each component only like once, okay? Don't repeat them. Do not add any additional components. So don't add anything else that you think, oh, we could have added this. No, you don't need that. Just use what they have. You have less time to do this. You have 5 points for this question. Use as many arrows and yes, no labels as you need. No problem with arrows and labels. Um, sorry, arrows and yes, no labels, right? You have yes, no labels for selection statements. We have just one selection statement here. Use as many arrows as you need for that. Now, we have a blank drawing page here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this page and I'm actually going to bring it here. The benefit of me using Illustrator right now to do this. Uh, this is the normal graphics program that I actually use to do a lot of my work as well, helping people design things. One of the tools that I use. So yeah, we're going to have this in front of us as reference and we're going to start building this. Anyways, you guys, please pause the video and start building this on your own. Come back for the answer. All right, guys, welcome back. So this is a very, very, very simple flowchart to make, and they've actually done most of the work for you. You just have to see what you have on screen and do it accordingly. I accidentally pulled out my zoom annotation tools while I need paintbrush tool and Illustrator. Okay, so firstly, whenever you make these kinds of things, You get 1 point for actually putting the start and stop terminators of the, or the start and stop symbols of the flowchart in the correct positions. So let's do that really quickly. I'm going to put this start right here. I'll try to draw this as neatly as possible. So that's my start. And then I'm going to make a stop down here. Remember, these are kind of pill-shaped, the start and stop terminator symbols or start and stop symbols. Right. And then so we'll look at the symbols that we have. So basically, she's Ruba is like writing a guessing game, right? So she's trying to build a logic. So when you make a guessing game, you remember that firstly you have to uh, set the guess number. Okay, so if I'm saying, hey, guess the number between 1 and 10, what's the number in my mind? Well, they don't know what's in my mind, right? But that number has to be stored first as the correct answer. So, firstly, we will obviously put the number. Uh, Hold on, you gotta be patient while I draw the box. Okay, number is equal to 10. So this is going to be our correct answer. This is our correct answer. Okay, so that needs to be stored first. So we'll remember to draw an arrow, nice straight arrow. Okay, and then after that, once the guess number has been set, now we can ask the user what their guess is. Okay, if we're playing this, so firstly, if you were to do this on your own, like playing this game without actually like a computer program, what would you do? You'd actually think of a number between 1 and 10. You'd say, okay, in your mind you thought 5, okay, and then you don't say that out loud, obviously, then the game is over. You think about 5, and then you say, okay, I've thought of my number. Okay, so I've thought of my number. That's done right here. Then next you say, okay, now you guess what the number is. So that's what we'll do right here. We'll guess the number. So I'm just going to try and draw this. We'll try to guess the number. So we'll say get, I'm going to pick up this one. So I'm going to keep ticking off these things. You don't do that in your paper, but I'm just doing this so we know that we've done it. We've used start and we've used stop. We've used number equals 10. We've used get guess. So I'm using that right now. Get guess from the user. Okay. So we don't need to add anything to this. We don't need to do anything extra. Don't waste your time. Just as whatever is given to you, just work with that. So then we need to check if the guess is equal to the number that we have set, okay, the number that we thought of, or that's the answer, right? So we need to compare. So we will make another arrow that goes to a selection statement this time. And the selection statement will say, guess is the guess. You zoom in a little to this, into this, so I can write better. Guess is equal to the number. Is the guess equal to the number? That's our question. Okay, so the number is 10. Whatever the guess the user guessed, is that equal to the number? Then we say, so we've used this one as well, so I'll tick that off. Display, hooray, they match. Display, no. So these are outputs. This is an output, and this is an output. Okay, so both of these are outputs. So we can say display, hooray, they match if this is a in the yes direction for this, right? So in the yes direction, we will say, we will output Remember to draw these shapes correctly. This is a parallelogram, so I have to draw it in this shape of a parallelogram. This was a box shape because this is a process block. This is a pill shape because this is a start, and this is also a pill shape because this is a stop symbol. So you gotta draw them correctly. Just copy the uh, at least in this kind of a question where they've given you the symbols, copy them as it is. Okay, display, hooray, they match. So we gotta write that right here. I'm gonna write display, hooray, they match. Okay, if that's a yes. And we can simply connect this to the stop symbol because that will be the end of the program, right? So we've used this one as well. The only thing left to use now is this last one. So we will use that in the no direction. So we'll make a no direction here. If the guess is not equal to the number, obviously, we have to then use this one. Okay, and we'll draw the parallelogram shape here for the output symbol again, right? And we'll say display, what did they say? Display no match, yes again. Okay, so that's the negative answer. Display no match, yes again. Okay, so that is our solution. And you should get full marks for doing this in this manner. All right, next question says, identify an alternative method for writing the algorithm. How could we have written this same algorithm in an alternative way? Right, think about the answer and come back for the answer that I will provide. So we can definitely write this um, as program code. That's the other way that we could have represented this flowchart, right? If it said a written description, if it said pseudocode, we could have mentioned that. But they only say program code. Here, cipher doesn't make sense because cipher is a form of encryption. Simulation is actually a completed program. Okay, it's a fully functional, complex program that's running. Okay, so this is not a simulation. This is also not a truth table because truth tables are actually used to um, it's just a method of testing an algorithm. Okay, so we're not intending to test this algorithm. We're just saying an alternative method for writing the algorithm. So that's the only thing that we can say here. So Riba wants to develop a program that will convert a temperature in Fahrenheit to Celsius. Here are 4 steps in the algorithm. The steps are not in the correct order. So what do we have to do? These are the steps. And give the letter of the step that initializes a variable. Okay, give the letter of the step that inputs a value. So they haven't asked us here to correct the order. They've just asked us to give the letter of the step that initializes a variable and give the letter of the step that inputs a value. So go ahead and pause the video, answer these questions yourself, and then see if you got it right with my answer. So which letter of the step initializes a variable? Well, let's look at what we have. Step, change the temperature to Celsius, change the temperature in Fahrenheit, show the temperature in Celsius, set the temperature to 0. This definitely looks like an initialization is being done. So what does initialization mean? When we set the initial value of any variable. So let's say temperature, I'm just going to say temp here, is a variable, and we set it to an initial value of 0. It needs to start from somewhere, right? So this is known as initialization. So we will put the letter D here. Okay, we'll get 1 mark for that. Get the letter of the step that inputs a value. What do you think inputs a value here? Change the temperature to Celsius? No, that looks like a conversion, more like a process. Get the temperature in Fahrenheit. This looks like a input, okay? So we will put in B as the answer for this one. All right, let's move on. All right, guys. So this question here is a trace table question. So I just made this block here to help us figure out which line of code we're on. Like we normally do with trace tables, I like to draw like this block to keep explaining which step we're on, but you'll have to keep track of this on your own, in your own way, during the exam, inshallah. Um, so this question says figure 2, which is this pseudocode figure right here, shows the pseudocode for an early version of an algorithm that Riba has written for another game. So we were doing Riba's previous game that she made for, uh, oh, where's that one? Um, yeah, the guessing game that she made here, right? That we made a flowchart for. So this guessing game. So now Riba is doing another game. This time we have a pseudocode, and the algorithm asks for the user to input a color or input -1 to end the game. So basically, if they input a color, the color game can continues, and if they enter -1, that will end the game. So it awards 1 point for red, it awards 8 points for orange, for the color orange, and generates the score for the game. And then also displays the results of the game at the end. So this is the pseudocode for it. We're going to go through the pseudocode and we're going to go through this question. So it says, after that, it says Riba inputs, I don't know if you pronounce this Reba or Reba, Riba, Reba, inputs red, orange, red, red, orange, and -1 as the inputs. So the outputs are not as she expects. If the outputs are not as she expects, that probably means there's an error in the pseudocode, right? So we'll have to figure that out, and you'll see that um, does ask us the question later, give the line number of the pseudocode that contains the error. Okay, so the first part of this is that you have to complete the trace table to show the outputs. Obviously, when we do the trace table, we'll be able to see visually with all the values and on all the variables, we'll be able to visually see what's wrong in the code, right? Otherwise, if you just look at the code, you might not be able to pick it up immediately. So that's why we have trace table tools, trace tables, blah, 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 help us do that. So give the line number the pseudocode that contains the error. Write a replacement line of the pseudocode to correct the error. So those are all the parts of the question. Go ahead, pause the video and try and solve it. You'll see all questions here in one frame. So I'll put it like this so you can see the entire question in one frame. So this is the pseudocode. These are the questions. Go ahead, pause the video, come back for the answer. Okay, welcome back. So now, firstly, when you do these kind of questions, always remember to be very careful with how you're going through the pseudocode in front of you. This could be pseudocode, this could be Python code. Um, in your theory paper, this is most likely going to be pseudocode or some sort of an algorithm. Because there's no real way to, because there could be somebody who studied Java or C sharp, right? And studied this course using Java or C sharp. Then they wouldn't like to see Python code, right? Or vice versa. If you were studying Python and you see Java code, you'd be like, I didn't study Java. Why are you showing me Java, right? So that to stay safe, they will always show you these kinds of algorithms, basically, in the form of flowcharts, pseudocodes, or maybe written descriptions. Okay, so firstly, we'll have to complete this trace table. So let's just go through this program. Remember, -1 would end the game, and you'll see the code. The code is pretty self-explanatory. So we'll just go through the code. So when the code starts, we set the color, we initialize some variables. We set the color to an empty string. We set the score, we initialize the score to 0, we initialize red points variable to 0, we initialize the orange points variable to 0, and the num oranges variable to 0. Okay, those are initialized, and you can see that they did that for us. The score, red points, orange points, num oranges, they initialized all those for us as empty strings, and the color is also an empty string right here. We don't see anything in the box, but that is what it is. Okay, it's an empty string. They didn't leave it blank for no reason. It's because we did the blank right here. Then we move on with the code. Line 6 is empty. Line 7 has something, so it's a while loop. And if you don't remember this code, remember you always have the pseudocode command set attached at the end of your question paper, or given to you as a separate booklet. So when you go into while loops, you'll see that actually not while loops. You'll have to look at comparison operators or relational operators. You'll see that this double angle bracket in Edexcel's version of pseudocode means not equal to. Okay, and you can see, you can go through this pseudocode command set. We've gone through it in detail in the beginning of our course. So this is basically saying while the color is not equal to -1. So as long as the color is not equal to -1, we'll keep continuing this while loop and it'll keep looping. Okay, the only stopping point is when the color becomes -1. That's when we stop. All right, so at the moment, color is equal to an empty string. This is not equal to -1. Okay, so this is also a valid input for this loop to start. Okay, so we'll receive the color. Now we're going to receive the color from the user. Okay, we're going to take it from the user as a string. So this, they've given us those inputs. They said the RIBA inputs red, orange, orange, -1. Usually they always give you these inputs so that you can, otherwise it would be really hard for you to figure out how to make the trace table. Okay. So here they've given you those inputs, and to make it easier for you, they've filled the first column. The different colors that are given as inputs, they've already listed down those in this question. So that makes it easy. We don't normally what I like to do is I like to make another box for explaining purposes. I make a box and I'm keeping track of our inputs as well, so that while we're looping through the code, we're keeping track of which input we're on as well. And if you remember when we did the trace table questions, that's what we were doing there too. Right. So we don't need to do this for this one because they already mentioned it in the different rows. So for the red row, okay. So while the colors, say the color given to us is red, we're on the first row right here. So if the color is red, so we're gonna see there's an if statement here. If color is red, then we're gonna enter into this if statement because we're gonna do that. The color is red this time. So in here, we'll say set the red points to red points plus 1. So we'll set the red points to red points plus 1. So there's a 0 there. We're just going to put a 1 because 0 plus 1 is 1. Okay, and then we're not going to go into the else if because the color is not orange. It's only red. So we're going to ignore all of these, and because we're still in the while loop, we'll go back to the beginning of the while loop. We'll ask ourselves the question: is the color equal to -1? No, it's not equal to -1. It's red at the moment. So then we'll go inside the loop. We'll ask for the next color. So this time the color is orange. So we'll go if the color is red. No, the color is not red. Else if the color is orange. Yes, the color is orange. So we're going to say set orange points to orange points plus 1. So in this row for the orange, we're going to say orange to orange points plus 1. So what's already inside of orange? 0, 0 plus 8. That's what they say, right? 0 orange points plus 8. So 0 plus 8. So we'll simply just write 8 here. And are they doing anything else? Yes, they also set another variable, which we initialized num oranges to 0, the number of oranges. So number of oranges is also going to be incremented. So it's 0 right now. We're going to plus 1 that becomes 1. In the same row, okay? This is for the same input. This is for the same input orange. Now we'll get out of the loop, get out of the, if statement, and then we'll go to the beginning of the while loop because we're still in the while loop. Is the color not equal to, it's still not -1, right? It's at the moment orange. Then we're going to get the next color. The next color is red. we get the red color. So if color is red, we're going to set the red points to whatever it was, 2 plus 1. So this time it was 1 before, now it'll become 2. 1 plus 1, 2. Then we're going to ignore all of this because this is not valid anymore for us. So we'll go back to the beginning of the loop. The color is still red. Now we're going to take the next color. The next color is also red. Okay, so we'll go into the red again and we'll say set the red points to plus 1. So it's 2. We'll do 3 here and we'll ignore the else. We'll go back to the beginning while, okay, and the color is red at the moment, so it's not -1. We'll still continue into the loop. We'll say receive color from, this time the color is going to be orange. So we're going to say orange, orange, orange. Orange means we're going to go into the if statement. No, we're not going to go into the if statement. We're going to go else if color orange, set orange to whatever it was, to plus 8. So it was 8 before, we're going to do 8 plus 8 now. So that makes 16. 2, or you could just think of it as 8 times 2, 16. Well, we're not doing times 2 here, we're doing plus 8. I'm just saying it's like that, okay? And then we're going to do num oranges to num oranges plus 1. And then we're going to increment the value of num oranges. Increment means we're going to increase it. Increment it by 1. So it was 1 before, it's going to become 1 plus 1, 2. Because we did whatever is already in num oranges plus 1. And we're going to exit, exit, exit. We're going to go back to the beginning of the while loop. And color is still orange, so we're going to continue again. We're going to receive the color from the user. This time they'll give us a -1. So when it's -1, we'll go to the if statement. If the color is red, no, the color is -1. We're not going to do this. We're going to go else if color is orange. No, not orange, it's -1. So we're going to ignore this as well. So we're going to go back to the beginning. This is an important step. You got to think like a computer. Usually you'd be like, oh, it's ended, we'll just stop here. No, do it like a computer. Go to the beginning. Okay, follow the steps properly. Rewatch this part of the video clip again. Be careful. Pay attention to what I just did here. Okay. Then it goes in here and it asks the question while color is equal to -1. This time that color is equal to -1. So this is going to be now a false condition. So now we'll exit the while loop finally, and we'll go to line number 18. We'll end while, and then we'll go to line 18, and then we'll come to line 19. Line 19 says, set score to red points plus orange points. So here, the score in this line is going to be equal to red points. What is inside red points? Red points is 3 plus orange points, right? That's what it says. Red points plus orange points. So we're going to do that exactly. 16 plus 3 is 17, 18, 19. We're going to do 19 right here. Okay, not at this point, because this is not the point where we had -1. We've exited the loop. Now we're here. We have no more color inputs. This is pretty much now repeating -1, -1, -1, but we don't need to write that. Okay, because no new input has been given. It's better to write it only when you have a new input given, or there's a value that has changed inside of that variable. So if it's the same, just let it be empty. Okay, so we did that. Let's move to line 20. Line 20 is empty. Line 21 says send this output to the display. Score colon space, and then this is concatenation symbol. You can go refer to the pseudocode command set. This means the concatenation symbol. So we're basically concatenating this string with this variable. And well, the problem that's going to come here is that the score is an integer, and the string right here is a string. Well, string is a string. So when we concatenate string and integer, we've learned about the problem that arises here. That is that you can't concatenate a string and a integer together. So you're going to have to use typecasting in this case. But for now, let's just ignore that fact. I just wanted to remind you of it. We're going to ignore that for now. We're going to say send score to display. So we're going to go to here, and in a new line this time, what are the outputs that are coming out now? The output's going to be score and space. Score is 19. This is the score column. Oh, I wrote this in the wrong column. Very, 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 very sorry for that. Don't get confused, guys. I was supposed to write it in this column. I just accidentally wrote it in the next column. Okay? So score is 19. This is going to be outputted. There's a space, and then a 19 is going to be outputted to the display. Then we say send number of reds to and red points to display. So we're going to write number of reds, and then we're going to concatenate the value of number of reds. So number of reds is going to be, what is the number of reds? Red points. So we use the value of red points here. So we're going to get that variable from there. Red points is 3. So the last value of red points was 3. We're going to put the 3 here. And then we have number of orange points. So set number of oranges to and orange points. Number of oranges and that's going to be equal to what? Orange points. Orange points is 16 in the last value, so we're going to put that in there. And that's it. This trace table has now been made correctly, and this is the way that you're supposed to solve it. Now let's try and answer the next questions. I'm sure you gave it enough time. You solved it on your own as well. Now it says give the line number of the pseudocode that contains the error. So you look at our trace table, number of oranges. Why did we use this? Why did we create this? We're not even using this, right? There's no such thing as num of reds, for example, num reds, because we're not counting that, right? Um, so nowhere in the game it says that we're actually trying to count the number of oranges. That's our goal. Um, so according to this variable that we have right here, it's not being used, and it says num oranges. So it makes sense that we don't say number of oranges and we put orange points variable's value here, which is 16. We don't want to put this value here. We want to instead use num oranges value, right? So this problem is actually coming from the very last line where we say orange points. We want to replace this and we want to say, what's that? Num oranges. We want this variable. So make sure that you have the case sensitivity correct. Num oranges. This is what we actually want to put here. Okay, so that is line number 23. So we're going to put a 23 here. And it says write a replacement line for the pseudocode to correct the error. So we can just write that here. We can say send. And actually, let me do this using my type tool so you guys can see it clearly. We'll say send number of oranges. I'm just following the line on the left. The pseudocode's highlight in purple. Space. Make sure you guys see this space. Okay, that's one space. I did it multiple so you guys can see that. Okay, and then we say we use the ampersand operator so that we can concatenate this. Instead of saying orange points, we say num oranges. Okay, and to display. So this would be our correct pseudocode that we can enter here as the answer. Okay, so you'll get full points for this question answered in that way. Excuse me. Sorry, my mic was far away. It says Visa Health Center is located in the northeast of England. Okay, so there's a health center located northeast of England. It says the health center uses artificial intelligence to provide a symptom checking service for its patients. Okay, all right. Patients log on to the website and input their symptoms. Describe how artificial intelligence could identify what is wrong with them. Okay, and give one reason why a patient may not want to use this online service. Okay, so the next question, this question's from Unit 6, when we learned about artificial intelligence and the medical applications, right? So go ahead, pause the video, and come back for the answer. Right, so first thing that they've asked is describe how artificial intelligence could identify what is wrong with them, right? So it's a basic hospital health center, and they are providing a system to patients that they can just enter their symptoms, the problems that they're facing. Symptoms basically mean, like, if I'm having a certain disease, I might have a fever, I might have like a flu, I might have some pain in my head, right side of my head, left side of my head. So I can just mention my symptoms, what I'm feeling, and the artificial intelligence is basically going to just match those with certain illnesses. So let's say I'm having a uh, any kind of disease. Okay, so it'll just match the symptoms based on those, and then it'll give me a possibility that this is probably what's wrong. So what we can say right here is um, the system would um, analyze our analyze the patient's symptoms, sorry, symptoms with the symptoms of common ill of the illnesses. I could just say of the illnesses, and then further narrow it down to find the exact illness that the patient has. I wrote it in a way that made sense to me, so I'll stop there, and I will give one reason. We'll do this next one later. So let me color this with a different color because it's usually not easy to spot this. Oops, not easy to spot this, that this is an answer. So I'll give you the probable answers that you can use here. You can pause the screen, you can pause the video and just look at these, inshallah. So you can have a look at all the different answers that you can give for this that would give you marks. Okay, so you can pause the video, check those out, answer it in any way that you are comfortable with. Okay, if this kind of a question comes in a different scenario, different situation. Okay, give one reason why a patient may not want to use this online service. So what do you think, what would be the concern of a user that they wouldn't want to use this service, this online service? Maybe not everybody's comfortable with AI, right? So what would be their reason for dropping out? Pause the video, come back for the answer. So I could say here that one reason why the patient would not want to use this online service would be maybe they don't trust the AI system with their personal medical records. Okay, so this is one kind of answer that will give you full points, inshallah. That's just 1 point for this question, so you'll get the full 1 point here. Here are the possible answers that you can give for this question. Let me share that screenshot with you. You can pause the video and look at these answers. You can give all of these answers as a valid answer for this question. Right, let's move on further from this point, inshallah. Let me just keep those answers there for future reference. Okay. The next question says, the health center has clinics in two buildings, Cleveland and Stockton. So the network server is the Cleveland building. Name the type of network used to access the server from within the Cleveland building. Name the type of network used to access the server from the Stockton building. Okay, go ahead, pause the video, and come back for the answer. Right, so let's break this down again. It says Cleveland. So okay. Yeah, we have Cleveland and so Cleveland and Stockton are two cities in the United States of America. Cleveland and Stockton. So they're saying that the health center, this hospital, this health center has two clinics, has clinics in two buildings, Cleveland and Stockton, okay? So the network server in the Cleveland building, name the type of network used to access the server from within the Cleveland building. So let's draw two buildings. Let's say this is a city. I'm going to draw a city. Let's just draw it in any random shape in America. This is another city. Okay, so Cleveland is a building. Cleveland is a building in the Cleveland city. Okay, let's say that's one building. And there's another building in Stockton. So this is Cleveland and this is Stockton. Okay. So let me draw the Stockton building too. Right, so let's say you're within the Cleveland building. What kind of network are you using from within the Cleveland building? That's obviously the local area network. Okay, this is known as the local area network, or known as LAN. Very easy. It's a 1-point question. Okay, and and the next one says, name the type of network used to access the server from the Stockton building. So the network, oh, one more point is that the network server is within, so I'm going to draw a server here. The network server, this is the server. This is within the Cleveland building. It's not in the Stockton building. So if you are accessing the server, which is in the Cleveland building, from the Stockton building, from here, how will you connect to the server? With the local area network in the Stockton building? Yes, there's a local area network in the Stockton building, but how can you then connect with the server? So in order to connect with the server, you know that the LAN over here, the LAN over here is going to connect with the LAN over here. How it connects, that's not your concern. You don't want to think about that too much. You just got to know that you want to connect these two LANs together using a WAN. That's how the Stockton building will be able to connect with the Cleveland building. So just keep that in mind. And I'll draw this here, WAN. And I will write over here WAN. Okay? I'm just going to move this drawing to the bottom so that we can actually work with this. Okay, WAN, and we're going to write here, this is known as wide area network. You could just say WAN as well. You could just say LAN as well. You don't have to mention the full forms. It's just a 1-point question. Okay, next question. The network is at risk of an eavesdropping attack. Identify the description of an eavesdropping. Okay, so this is pretty simple. Go ahead, pause the video, come back for the answer. So we read the answers. A says tricking people into giving information by sending emails pretending to. So basically, what is eavesdropping? Eavesdropping means when we listen into other people when we're not part of the conversation. We're just listening in. We're spying on them. We're listening or we're reading the content that we're not supposed to read. So two people are talking to each other. Two people talking to each other. Okay, they're talking to each other. They're having a conversation. This third person comes in the middle. He has a big ear and he wants to listen into the conversation. These guys don't know about this person, right? So this is known as eavesdropping. I said don't stand in on a door when your parents are talking and they're talking about something that you should not be listening to. It's not none of your concern, or any situation. And if some two people are talking, you're not part of that conversation. You should stay out of it. That's what we learn in Islam as well. So, anyways, so in terms of an eavesdropping attack, let's see which one fits the best. So, tricking people into giving information by sending emails pretending to be from someone authority. No, doesn't seem like it. Spying on someone using a computer. Okay, let's read some more. Intercepting information as it is transmitted over a network. That sounds like somebody's listening in to our conversation. Spying could mean different things, right? Somebody's watching from your camera, somebody's actually physically spying on you using devices, right? But intercepting information as it is transmitted over network sounds like a likely case. Redirecting a user from a genuine website to a fake one. This is not eavesdropping. So definitely the answer is here is C. Okay, doctors use laptops when they visit patients in their homes. The laptops have solid state drives, so SSDs. Explain one reason why a solid state drive is better than a magnetic hard drive for the laptops. Okay, and then with that, I want you guys to answer the question for the second one as well. Describe how data is stored on a solid state drive. So take your time, pause the video, and come back for the answer. Right, so welcome back. So, doctors use laptops when they visit patients in their homes, obviously because they're portable. The laptops have solid state drives, SSDs. Remember SSDs? We talked about SSDs, solid state drives or solid state disks. We also when we talked about flash memory, right? NAND flash memory. We also talked about NAND flash chips, NAND flash memory. Okay, so those were basically also known as, AKA flash drives. They were also known as flash drives. Now, SSDs work on the same concept as NAND flash memory. So explain one reason why a solid state drive is better than a magnetic hard drive for the laptops. Well, they have they don't have moving parts like the hard disk drive has. They don't have moving parts. They are faster and they are faster. Right? These are just two reasons that should be enough for you to score uh, full points, inshallah, for this question. But I'll share all of the possible answers that you can give here for this question. So let's share the screenshot for the mark scheme here. And it says it's more robust. SSDs are more robust. They're less likely to break if dropped. Yes, I forgot to mention that, but like I said, I don't need to mention everything for the answer. They're less likely to. I just thought that I'd share the answer key, the mark scheme, and then we'll talk about all of these points. So, yes, um, the solid state drives are less likely to stop working if they were dropped. So with your laptop, if it has an SSD and you drop it accidentally, if it was a mechanical hard drive, the magnetic hard drive, the one that spins around with those metal discs, if you had that, it was more likely because it has mechanical parts, moving parts, small parts, it could stop working because they'll break inside. Okay. Everything's really tiny in there and aligned and everything, right? So you don't want to drop that. But since solid state drives are work in a different way. It's just basically electrons trapped in a pool on chips. So there are no mechanical moving parts, right? So you can mention all of these things. You can see they're mentioned here. They're smaller. They don't have moving parts. They're mechanical. They're smaller. They're thinner. They're lighter than a device with HDD. Okay, so easier to carry, more portable. Laptops have less room in them for drives components. So components. I think that's misspelled here. So that's why it's lighter in weight than hard drives as well. Try picking up an SSD and then try picking up a hard disk drive, and you'll see the difference in weight as well, right? Because there's more metal in there in the hard disk drive than as compared to the SSD. SSD is much lightweight, it's thinner, it's best for laptops. So these days, laptops have SSDs. They don't have hard disk drives anymore unless you want to attach it outside mechanically, like as externally. SSDs also use less power, which is great because they don't have spinning motors and everything. They use less power, so the battery, the laptop will last longer. The SSD is faster. It can access data records more quickly. These are all the points that you could mention for this. I'm just going to leave that in there. Okay, describe how data is stored on a solid state drive. So now you just have to describe them. I already gave you the time to pause for this one. So I'll go ahead and answer this now. So you can say what we used here, flash, NAND flash memory chips are used. You can say something like that. Or you can just say NAND flash memory chips are used. NAND flash memory chips. Memory chips are used. Are used. And you could say um, electrons are basically elec electrons are trapped and stored, or stored, we could just say trapped, stored inside of electron pools. So this should be a sufficient answer for this question. And again, I'll share the mark scheme with you, and you can see some more points in there. Right, so flash memory chips are used inside of an SSD. We could also say you could use any two from the following, so any 2 points from here. So flash memory chips are used. Chips have floating gate transistors, electron pools, charge traps, whatever word you want to use. We've used electron pools when we were studying, so this is more appropriate to use. Gates, electron pools, charge traps hold an electric charge. Charge remains even when no power. Okay, that's an interesting one because it's a non-volatile memory, so charge remains even when there is no power. No charge, empty pool, trap represents data. Okay, no charge or an empty pool or an empty trap represents data. Okay, there's nothing in there that represents a one, a data, piece of data. Okay, so a charge full and a trap. So if you do these two at the same time, you will get full 2 points. Okay, so if you say that when there is no charge, that is represented. That is it. So basically, there's an electron pool right here, and there's no charge in there. This is going to be equal to. Sorry, there is charge here. Let me do one without charge. This is going to be equal to 1. And if there is charge in there, again, I'm doing a very simple breakdown, very simple explanation of this. We went into detail. We even watched some YouTube videos when we were discussing secondary storage um, that did some better demonstrations and experiments to explain these concepts, right? So when there's a charge, we'll consider that as 0. So if a charge, full pool, or trap represents no data, 0. Okay, and data is stored in blocks and pages. We also read about that in that video we watched. We also explained this, and Yeah. Okay, so I'll keep all of this, get all of this off the screen, put the answer on the side, and let's move to the next question, inshallah. Okay, the laptops have two types of memory. Complete the table by adding one tick to match each description to the type of memory used. So, description stores the boot up sequence. And which one do you think does that? Stores the boot up sequence. Um, RAM or ROM? And the other one is the contents are lost when the laptop is shut down. Okay, so go ahead, pause the video. It's a very simple question. Pick the right one. All right, welcome back. So the answer simply is for storing the boot up sequence, this is definitely a read-only memory because whenever you restart the computer, we can't lose the boot up sequence. Boot up sequence means that's the basic firmware that's running in your computer. If it weren't there, the computer would not know how to turn all of the hardware on. That that is being done by the firmware installed by the manufacturer of the laptop, and that is in the read-only memory. Read-only memory means you can't write anything into it. It is installed by the manufacturer of the device. So it stores the boot up sequence. Definitely ROM. The contents are lost when the laptop is shut down. This is definitely RAM because that's what happens. The RAM memory is flushed out and it goes empty every time you restart the computer. Right? So if your computer is running slow, that's usually because your RAM might be full. So just doing a simple restart of your computer will make everything start working normally again. Santiago manages a computer network for a small business. Networks are based on a topology. We remember topologies. This is from Unit 5, the first chapter. Figure 3 shows a network topology right here. I'm sure you already picked up what this topology is. So explain one benefit of this network topology. The internet is the world's largest mesh network. Explain one reason why it met. Okay, so this is another question. Let's do this one first. You guys can already pick up what topology this is. This is the ring topology, so go ahead and explain the one benefit of this network topology. Pause the video, come back for the answer. So the best one that I can remember, there are many that you can write here, is you can say, let me use the type tool, you can say, oh, there are 2 marks for this, right? So we want to make sure we mention at least 2 points. You could say, there are no collisions of data, like in the bus topology. There are no collisions of data, like in the bus topology. I could say that if I wanted to, just to show that I know the bus topology as well. There are no collisions of data like in the bus topology, and there is no need for using a switch or hub to connect the devices. Okay, so this should be sufficient enough to give you full points for this question. I'll share all of the points that you can mention in this as an answer. So you can pause the screen, pause the video, and read these points and see which one you want to use. Okay, so we use some of them because they can transfer data quickly, reduce chance of packet collisions as data only flows in one direction. Yeah, we could do that, right? We could say there are no collisions of data like in the bus topology because data flows in one direction. That's a good point to write. I forgot to mention that. Data flows in the right in the same direction. I'm going out of view now, so let's just bring that down here, bring that back up. Okay, then you can read some more points here. Okay, so no need for a server, switch, or hub. We mentioned that because the packets do not have to be directly routed to a specific device. Each workstation controls connectivity. Packets are passed from workstation to workstation until the destination is reached. Every workstation gets equal access to resources. The workstation basically means these PCs that we're talking about, these devices. Um, every workstation gets equal access to resources. Because each station has to wait until it gets a token, devices do not have to compete to get a token. Additional workstations can be easily added, easily set up because each workstation only connects to other two workstations. Yeah, easy to find faults. All of the tokens will end. So we can read this. Okay, I'm gonna pause the video and read that. I'll just put that down. There's the answer. The internet is the world's largest mesh network. Explain one reason why a mesh topology is essential for the internet. Go ahead, pause the video, come back for the answer. So how we can answer this is we could simply say, again, it's 2 points, so we have to mention at least 2 good points here. Not that each point means that you have to mention a point, but linking 2 explanations here would be sufficient to get 2 points. And 2 different kinds of ideas, but you got to link them together. So explain one reason why mesh topology is essential for the internet. Firstly, because the internet needs to stay on for even if one device fails, one or more devices fail. Internet needs to stay on even if one or more devices fail. So a mesh network allows data, packets, information, whatever you want to say here. The data or packets is a good one. Data or packets to find alternate routes to reach their destination. This allows for a larger geographical coverage due to the ease of adding new devices, nodes, flash nodes, you could say devices or nodes, to the network. Okay, so this should be sufficient enough for an answer. I'll share the mark scheme for this too. You can see that right here coming up on your screen. There we go. So you can read these. These are also some more points that you can mention here. Okay. Go on from here further. Santiago works on his laptop whilst traveling by train. There is free Wi-Fi connection on the train, but Santiago doesn't use it. He prefers to set up a network between his smartphone and his laptop to connect to the internet. Name this type of network. Pause the video. And actually explain one advantage for Santiago of using the network he has set up to connect the internet rather than the free Wi-Fi connection. So these 2 questions go hand in hand together. I want you to answer them together. Pause the video and answer these questions. Part 1 and part 2. All right, welcome back. So what is this type of network? He prefers to set up a network between his smartphone and his laptop. That sounds pretty short range. What is the shortest range network that we can set up? It's a personal area network to connect to the internet. So we can write a personal area network right here, a PAN. Okay, I write that with my a PAN here. Okay, personal area network. PAN. Okay, and then explain one advantage for Santiago of using the network he has set up to connect to the internet rather than the free Wi-Fi connection. So I want to highlight another point here. When he look, how can you create personal area networks? You can connect your phone with your laptop using Bluetooth. You can connect it using a USB cable, so that becomes a wired connection. Bluetooth is the wireless connection. What's the other way that you can connect your? But he wants to use the internet, right? And he doesn't want to use the train's internet, um, because that's like a public internet that more people on the train are using. And it's free. That means that there's no password to connecting to it. So you don't know who's connecting to this, right? There are more users on this network. If you can turn on your cellular data on your phone and turn on the hotspot on your phone, you'd be able to use your cellular data's internet and use it on your laptop or computer. If you didn't know how to do that, watch a YouTube tutorial on how to do this. This is if you didn't know how to do this already. So you can do that. This is also an example of creating a personal area network. Right, so what we can write here is we can just let me bring that text block over here and let me erase everything from this. Okay, so one advantage of him using the cellular data, okay, is that there are going to be, it's going to be safer, it's going to be safer, or you could say more secure than the public Wi-Fi connection. I could also say, instead of saying it's going to be, I'll say his cellular data is going to be safer, more secure than the public Wi-Fi connection. It will also give him better speed, also give him better speed because there are no other users on the network. Okay, this is enough to give you points for this question. I'll share the answer scheme with you, and you can see other points that you could add here. A faster connection speed because fewer user devices are sharing the bandwidth connection. Improved security, stated security issue. Because it uses secure cellular data connection, not on public networks, Santiago has to approve users. So we've covered uh, some of the points here. We should get full marks, inshallah. Santiago uses audit trails to help protect the network. State what is meant by an audit trail. Give one way that data from audit trails can be used to help keep the network secure. So answer these two questions. And the last question for the paper is coming up. So yeah, go ahead, pause the video, come back for the answer. All right. So what is meant by an audit trail? Audit trails are simply ways to uh, audit trails keep track of activities um, performed on a computer system, or I could say audit trails keep track of activities performed on a computer system and also keeps tracks. I think you should write something much smaller than this because it's a 1 point question. To keep track of activities on a computer system. Okay. You could have also said an automatic record of what has happened on a system and who did it. I'm reading that from the mark scheme. That's also an interesting way to answer this. Um, the other question says uh, give one way the data from audit trails can be used to help keep the network secure. So how do audit trails actually help us keep the network secure? We will be able to identify um, any suspicious or malicious or suspicious activity, um, or changes on the system. Okay, we could say that. The other things that we can say, I'm going to share the mark scheme here. You'll be able to see the answers for both of them. So this is the answer for the first one. A record of activities specified activity that have taken place on a computer system, automatic record of what has happened and who did it. This is for part one. Okay, you can pause the video and watch that. Read that, sorry. And this one is for the second part. So to identify suspicious, malicious activity changes, slash changes to increase accountability, trace a problem back to its source or perpetrator, to find out if any users are using unauthorized applications capable of putting the network at risk. Okay, you can pause the video, read those again. We have answered it with a sufficient response. Okay, final question. Santiago wants to find and fix network vulnerabilities before the reputation of the company suffers. Describe the methods he can use. You should consider ethical hacking, commercial analysis tools, and review of network and user policies. This is a 6-point question. These kinds of questions with 5 or 6 points, they actually want you to write a detailed answer, and they want to see if your logic and structure of how you form that answer makes sense, and it shows your level of comprehension of these ideas, right? So you want to make sure you answer it with that level of detail. So go ahead, pause the video, and answer this question and come back for the answer. All right, so instead of writing an entire answer for this, I think the best way to save time and the most productive way of using our time is I'm going to share the mark scheme answers here for this question. And you can simply just see and compare if you have mentioned some of these points in your answers. Okay, so why would he use um, ethical hacking? Like, what does ethical hacking mean? What does commercial analysis tools mean? What do they mean? What does review of network and user policies mean? We can read about this. So ethical hacking. Ethical hackers are white hat hackers. Remember, ethical hacking means is the good kind of hackers. Is the good hackers, the good guys. They are hacking the system, but they are doing it for a good reason. People often hire these hackers, ethical hackers, to help them find loopholes in their system so that they could identify those vulnerabilities and then fix them. So that if an actual hacker were to come, they wouldn't be able to um, harm their system. So attempt to access the network as a hacker does. This is what ethical hacking is. Don't attempt to change or steal data. That's not what hackers do. They're just there to expose these threats. Looking for weaknesses in the network. Weaknesses pointed out by the weaknesses fixed. Could be employed by the. So these are just bullet points. Obviously, you have to phrase your answer in a better way. Could be employed by the business. Could work for another specialist company. Can include penetration testing. Okay. So commercial analysis tools, software used to find weaknesses, can be configured to. What are commercial analysis tools again? These tools help us identify common weaknesses inside of our programs. Um, so software that's used to find weaknesses can be configured to check for a range of weaknesses. Results reports generated identifying faults, weaknesses fixed. Review of network and user policies. What does this mean? It says collection of rules and guidelines that govern the behaviors of network devices and users. Okay, what are the rules and networks of how to use this network? What are the policies behind it? How are the users going to use it? What kind of network devices are allowed? All of these things are mentioned in the network and user policies. Need reviewing because may not comply with the new laws and regulations. Review should be scheduled. So if we were to write something about this, I think these are just general bullet points. So um, I'll try to write something for these. And give me a second while I write this. Okay, so I wrote the following, saving you time, not watching me type as I thought about the answer. So ethical hacking, this is a method where white hat hackers identify vulnerabilities or weaknesses. When I say slash, you can use either of the words in the system and don't actually harm the system or steal any information themselves. Rather, they identify these weaknesses so they can be addressed and fixed. Commercial analysis tools, software used to identify, find weaknesses without using any ethical hackers. These tools can also generate handy reports, results that can give great insights on how to fix issues. I might have included some of these points, left some of them out. You don't have to include all of them, okay? Review of network and user policies. Um, the rules and guidelines governing how to use the network and devices and what users can and cannot do while using the network. These policies are to be regularly updated with the changing legal regulations, and regular reviews should be scheduled to ensure this. Okay, so and the point that you should mention in the ethical hacking, I like this penetration testing, which we learned about in the course. So penetration testing was that this is a constant attempt at trying to find weaknesses in the system. So if you find one weakness, um, you report that, and then you keep trying for more weaknesses. So penetration means you're trying to get into the system somehow, some way, some loophole which you can find to try and expose the weakness of a system and get into the system, change the data, access the data, steal the data, right? So if you have the ability, they obviously don't steal it because they're ethical hackers. Uh, they actually just report these vulnerabilities and weaknesses. They're paid to do this. All right, that's the end of this paper. After this, we have the pseudocode command set, which is attached with the paper. So, yeah, that's that. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.